So I'm here with Maritime Road Recycling today, and we are going to do some cold milling here. So we're on Route 4, just outside the village of McAdam, and we're going to take 50 millimeters of asphalt up today on a 1.9 kilometer paving job. So I painted the start line earlier this morning, and we're just going to set the mill in now and make our first pass. So this recycled asphalt pavement, or RAP as we know it, is going to be used for shouldering this road once we're done paving it. So rather than open the door and leave it on the road, we're going to run it through the conveyor. We've got 3 trucks here to haul to a stockpile. We'll screen it to 1.25 inches, and when we're finished paving, we'll bring it back out, we'll put it on the shoulders. The road isn't broken up too badly, there aren't too many subgrade failures, so we foresee the asphalt milling up fairly uniform. When you have a lot of subgrade failures and a lot of alligator cracking, frequently the asphalt will mill up fairly lumpy, so you'll have a lot more loss than you might anticipate. But it looks like once we do our screening there, everything should look pretty good. These are our trucks that are queuing up to move the asphalt down to the stockpile area. We'll go down and have a look at the stockpile later. by raising and lowering the boom, we can control the stream and where we place it in the truck. Wrap tends to end up in the back end of the truck. It usually doesn't, we don't usually get too much in the front end. Depth or 2 inches. So that's what the foreman's doing right now. That's Jill Michaud, he's the foreman here, and he's just checking his depth right now. Depth is good. He didn't go to the board and jump anything. Particular mill has a 2.2 meter wide drum. We've got a 3.7 meter lane, so it's going to take us 2 passes to get over this. to cool the teeth as it moves along. That preserves the life of the teeth, prevents them from overheating. The teeth also turn in the sockets to help them wear a little bit easier too. So what we're doing here right now is periodically we'll re-water the machine. We'll do it on the move. We don't usually stop. It's not a really critical operation. It's just a matter of hooking up a hose and pumping some more water from the water truck in. So here we're in a curve, and on the inside of this curve, we've had some failure here with either the shoulder or the subgrade underneath the asphalt. So what's happened is it has sunk out, and it's a lot lower than the surrounding asphalt. So in our first pass, we mirror the cross slope that we have on the road before on this slope, which happens to be in a full super elevation at this point of the curve. So we've got 4.5% cross slope right here. So when we make this next pass, we have to mirror the cross slope that we have already previously done on the road. We don't mill a lane with two different cross slopes. It has to, you know, for the paving to go well and smooth, it has to have one cross slope. So the mill's actually coming behind me. So when we hit this area, what's going to happen is that we're going to daylight. And when I say daylight, that means that one side of this milling machine will be cutting along this edge. The other side of the milling machine is probably not going to be touching anything, and it may come and go where it touches and it doesn't. Anywhere where it's sunk down and is depressed a lot, it's gonna mill right over top of it. That is how it has to be. We're not profiling the road. Profiling the road would be, you know, trying to achieve a certain cross slope. What we're doing is mirroring what's here. So we'll probably end up, this low spot here, we'll probably end up padding this before we do our base. So depending on how much padding we require here, we may use a base asphalt to do the pad if it's fairly deep, like if it's, you know, a couple of inches deep that we have to pad. If it ends up just being a skim, we may have to mix up a load of seal to do the padding here. But once this is done, I'll come back and we'll sit on this spot and see how it turned out. So we're back again here. The mill's just passed, and you can see what I mean by daylighting. And we've got areas here that don't have any tooth marks on it, and they're areas that were depressed enough. You can also see some of the patching that maintenance had put in on the inside of this curve, and you can see how it delaminates, and there's probably about 2 generations of patching here. So in a situation like this where we aren't profiling, we have to put up with the daylighting. And from what I see, we probably won't have to pad it. We've got a lift of base and seal going here, so padding probably won't be necessary. And here you see a patch. This was probably a pothole right here. So this is where we set in first thing this morning when we made our first pass. You can see that we've actually milled a ramp in this so that when the traffic leaves this milled surface onto the asphalt, it's ahead on the road, that it doesn't create a bump. What we'll do when we come to pave that, we'll have a little milling head on a skid steer, and we'll cut a key there for the asphalt so that it matches into the mat that's a little farther down the road, and we have a nice smooth transition. But for just the purpose of milling, we'll ramp in and out of each end to keep the transition smooth, and we'll worry about cutting a key later. we've got a live bottom trailer that's just unloading here. Live bottoms are a little bit more awkward to get unloaded than an end dump trailer. But we've got on the other side of it there, we've got a backhoe that's going to pile it up. So if you look at the material, you see there's a variety of different sizes in there. There is the odd piece, might be up to 3 inches in size. Most of it's fairly fine. Most of the lumps come from areas where the road's broken up. This particular milling machine is an uppercut machine, so it cuts in with the drum moving in an upward direction. So sometimes when you get areas where it is alligator cracked and you've had subgrade failures, it'll actually pick up some of the asphalt in sheets. Some of the bigger machines are capable of doing a down cut, and they will mill a significantly finer material. So that's it, he's offloaded. It's not a whole lot of material, it's hard to fill these trailers. That's a tri-axle trailer, so it's pretty long. And the stream off the mill doesn't always do a good job of getting it up in the front end of that. So we've got a local backhoe loader hired here just to put up our stockpile and keep it in an orderly, fairly orderly there. We don't like to go any more than 2 meters or between 6 and 7 feet in height. If you go any higher than that, what tends to happen is the weight of the overburden of asphalt will really compact up the lower part of your stockpile. And it'll be hard to get loosened up when we use it for shoulder material or when we feed it into the screening plant. So the operator's careful when he's stockpiling this not to drive on the material very much. You'll see his front wheels just crept on it a foot or two. Not a big deal. But we don't want to drive you up on these stockpiles while we're stockpiling. So we don't want stockpiles that are 3, 4, 5, 6 meters high, because we've got to get our equipment up on top of it. And in the heat of the summer, the compaction is really difficult to deal with when we try to load it on a truck later. We'll get that into an orderly stockpile, and probably towards the first of next week we'll have a screening plant in. We'll screen that down to 1.25 inches. Contractor takes possession of the lumps that are when we're complete, so it's up to them to dispose of the lumps.